I think this is sharp. Why don't you give them all to Jack? Better start now. And then, thing else like that.
Yes, that's not the new AC at home, so I should have turned it on first thing. So if you're on everybody access, see it's working.
Yeah. Well, take that.
Okay, I'll make sure.
All right, I call to order the business meeting of the Woodstock Town Board for June 18th. And first up, we have a presentation from the Woodstock Volunteers Day. So Sam, you're up. Okay, you're on. He promised me 6 minutes. All right.
Like 8 minutes 7.
I gave, yeah, I think. Fine. All for the volunteers. Okay.
So, this coming August will be the 20th annual of Woodstock Volunteers Day. We have a few board members here. We're the only town in America that does this. Still, there's a town, I gave you that green sheet here. There's a town in Pekin, Illinois that tried and did one last year. Volunteer appreciation. It's a green. Yes, yes. They called us and said they wanted to do it. They had come to Woodstock by accident for some family matter. It happened to be the Volunteers Day. And this woman loved it. She contacted us and said, "Hey, I'd like to do it in our hometown." So she said, "Can I talk to you and get ideas or whatever?" So we did, and she pretty much did the best she could to copy our event. She since has moved up. She was the director of the United Way of Pekin, Illinois, and since then she moved up to a more prestigious position in the United Way organizations. So she wasn't able to do it this year. She included a small piece of volunteer recognition along with a big street here. But anyway.
Surely you didn't come to spend 7 minutes talking about.
No.
In Illinois.
No, I didn't. I'd like to introduce board president of WAVE, Woodstock Volunteers Day today, and the vice president, I'm sorry, Kathy Margaret, and then Helene Apthekar, who's the vice president. And 2 other board members, Vince St. John and Steve Grenadier, and there's one other who's supposed to be here, Susan LaPorte, she's the secretary. We also have 2 new board members, Nina Doyle of the Woodside School of Law, she's a new member to the board, and Kate Mack. It's always nice to have good energy. So I'm going to turn over to Kathy. We'll talk about one of the signature aspects of this event.
Hi. Hi. So I was like dreaming when I was driving here that 20 years ago I started getting food for Volunteers Day, and here we are on our 20th anniversary. And the restaurants have certainly changed in town. That was another little worry I had about going to restaurants that were all new and starting up. But I have to say the new restaurants in town have been phenomenal, fantastic, offering us food, giving us food. And we also now buy $100 worth of food from each restaurant to give them a little business. And most of the restaurants don't even want the money. Well, if I could go back to paying them after Volunteers Day, they're like, no, it's okay. So anyways, I'm on that, well, for years, Britt St. John's been on that committee with Fran Braun, Joyce Balsamo, myself, Linda Miller, Gloria Puffley. We had a great time. We went around to about 10 of the new restaurants. We even looked in that fancy shoe store. But they didn't have any. Anyways, it's been great. We're getting through it. People are so generous. The town has been really kind and very positive about Volunteers Day. And It's just been a pleasure to kind of go around and just meet some of the new people with that. Yeah, I guess, did I miss anything, Sam? Anyways, I want to thank everyone like Rick who's been doing this for years and Steve who's been helping and all the other board members. So
We must acknowledge Rick, he's our operations manager on the day. And all that food that comes in from all these places, we have teams that go out and pick up all the food. When it gets to the park, Rick's in charge, he does a great job. So, he's been doing it for many years, thank you, Rick.
Got some younger people who know how to use computers. They've been fabulous. I got my first email about food today. It was like, yes, I'll bring the food, pick it up 11:30. I'll make this, and this. It's like saved me like 7 more trips to every restaurant. So thanks to Nina Doyle, right?
Yeah.
Nina Doyle, she's been like doing all this computer work for us. It's been really great. So, hopefully when we don't do it anymore, we all set up. I'm ready.
Just to add to what happened, for about 10 years, we asked the restaurants to donate food, and they did. Then after a while, we were getting lots of pasta salads. So we realized that a lot of other organizations were asking for food too. So we switched to offering some money, so we could also pick and select what we needed for the event. But then, as Candy said, when we go back to pay them, we say, no, the whole thing's a donation. To the nice.
Nina, Vice President.
So the info here is, one of the other things that volunteers they've done is that they give out scholarships to graduating seniors or volunteers, and believe them, tell you more about it.
It's so sort of an odd thing for me to be vice president of an organization when I can't see. I mean, I kept saying to Sam 5 years ago, what can I do? But I'm very good on the phone. And Bill can probably attest to that when COVID happened and I called and I needed food to eat something. But the truth is that I call all these outreach and I ask for people, how many people are you going to send so we know how much food to buy? And it's been very helpful. Steve has been helping me with making those calls, and Nina now has a spreadsheet, so it will be much easier. But the scholarships are really wonderful. We've offered scholarships to Antiora, Kingston, Saugerties, anyone who applies or has a volunteer in their home, or they themselves are volunteers for the community, can apply for $100 scholarship. And we've given out this year $700 to different students who applied. And then we gave $400 to the Woodstock Fire Department for their scholarship fund. And it's really wonderful to have the students appreciate, because they have to write an essay of what it means to have volunteer in their family and what kind of volunteering they've done. So offering service to our community, Woodstock, I always tease people when I say that Woodstock is the best place to come if you need a kidney. People donate so much. I'm just saying that just a very generous time, and I so appreciate it.
Thank you. So Sam has given us, this is an application for the grant, but this is for Antiora.
Right,
So,
I got some extra copies if people would like to see them.
but Sam, if you can get me the Kingston and the Saugerties,
It's the same thing, just a different school name.
if you,
Yeah, I'll do it.
okay, if you have copies, you can email me, we'll put them all up tomorrow online. That's so that people can go to the town website.
Along with the agenda.
Yes,
Perfect.
we'll post the days of events as well.
Also, we've donated about $3,000 in the last 3 years. We're looking to do a fundraiser in the fall that will specifically raise money to increase those $100 awards to the kids. Cool. So, you're welcome. Thank you. So Susan was supposed to be here and talk about.
She must have gone to Como.
Oh, I told her that. Whatever. Anyway, the whole town is invited. And one of the things we ran into in the beginning was that many people thought it was just for volunteers. But the general public wasn't allowed to come or invited, but that's not true. We kind of say to all those other people, show up for the volunteers. They always show up for us. So people come, they can purchase some food or have the kids play on things for a small donation. But all the volunteers and their grandchildren, we get the food and the events, kids events for free. Steve, you want to talk about the outreach? The outreach.
I guess there wouldn't be a volunteers there without two things, one is Sam. And the other one is volunteers, the town volunteers, so we'd like to kind of, we try to contact all the volunteer organizations. Put the usual ones in town, the fire department, the rescue squad, Wheels on Wheels, the food pantry, historical society, the film festival, and all the great town boards and committees, and everybody who served and services the town. And invite everybody to come, and we'll have volunteers there. And we'll be trying to send out email blasts, getting a little more technology now, so we can do emails and phone calls. And if anybody has any organizations they think are deserving, besides the normal people, town boards, town volunteer organizations, let us know. Email Sam at volunteersday.org.
Info at volunteers.
Let us know. If you want to be a volunteer or you want to come, just let us know. Send an email, you're invited. If you know an organization that we should be on our list, just drop us an email, let us know, and hope to see everybody there because we really appreciate all the work that everybody does.
Thank you. Just two small things. This is a copy of the kind of information we try to contact all the chairs, commission chairs and presidents, and we ask them to help us contact their members. I'll find out how many will come. So I was hoping you might make sure they get that copy. And the last thing is is anything you do like this, it's a massive undertaking, you need help. So we don't usually end up with a number of people coming to help on that Saturday. As I mentioned before, we've gotten some new board members, which is good. But we do need people to set up and then to manage the day, empty the trash, whatever, clean up the tables, that kind of thing. And then also at the end of the day, closing it all down, stacking up the people. So if anyone is interested in helping and being part of really fun community event, ironically, 20 years ago, this community was going through a lot of other challenges, letters in the papers and lots of hostilities going on. And the former supervisor, Jeremy Boger, he agreed that there are so many more generous, kind, good-hearted people who live in this town. And they're not always the ones who are writing the letters or whatever. But this is the part I find charming. People from all different opinions will stand shoulder to shoulder to save somebody's house, to feed them, to help. So these are the people who are, personally, I think they're the royalty. They kind of pull us together in spite of ourselves. So, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the ethics board. Paul, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks. Let's see, I don't really sure if this all right. Well, it's an honor to follow Sam and his cohorts. My dad was a longtime volunteer of this town as well, and taking to watch me like you
Wait outside.
every year means a lot. In fact, one of the ideas I talked to my dad about right before he died, in fact, our final conversation before he died was about putting up a monument to the volunteers in town. But we certainly provided a link, so I just want to say thank you. very much. And it's one of the things that makes Woodstock special. Another thing that makes Woodstock special, actually, is that we do have an ethics board. Not every town in New York State has one. And I think it's evidence of a longstanding commitment of this town to conducting the business of government in a manner that's held accountable, and that's viewed as ethical and enjoys the confidence of the public. So I think it's a great thing we have an ethics board. I'm Paul Washington. I'm proud to chair the ethics board, and I'm delighted to introduce Iris York, being the record, who serve on the board with me, Allison Dodd, who can't be here. I think we've been together for what, 7 or 8 years as a group, maybe even longer. And it's an utterly harmonious group. It's a nice oasis of civility in this town. Appreciate the town board inviting us here this evening. The point of this is actually to provide a little bit of training to the town board and information for other folks about the town ethics law, what the law covers, what it doesn't cover, whom it covers, who it doesn't cover, and so forth. And to bring some ideas to the town board for your consideration. We're not coming with any specific asks tonight, but just have some things that in administering the ethics law, we think might be helpful for you to consider. So first, who is covered by the ethics law? And this is important, that all town officers and employees are covered, and that's paid and unpaid employees. So literally everyone who's appointed to a town board, town commission, town committee is covered by the substantive provisions of the ethics law. There's no getting away from it. The only people who do are judges and members of the court system, employees there, and volunteer firefighters or civil defense volunteers. So everyone's covered. And then virtually everyone, to help us administer the law, fills out an disclosure form that tells us whether they might have a conflict of interest. That's a really important part of the law. The town board is, as you know, able, based on the latest revision of the law, to exempt some folks from this, if you so deem. That has to be done by resolution of the town board. But there are some people who cannot be exempted from this law. That includes the ethics board itself, which makes sense. The town board, the planning board, the ZBA, the Board of Assessment Review, the Woodstock Environmental Commission. So we all have to abide by the ethics law and fill out those annual forms. I want to talk a little bit, because this is an area of sometimes confusion and even contention of what kind of conduct is covered by the ethics law. I'll start with what's not covered. And what's not covered is a lot of stuff. What's not covered is rude behavior, inappropriate behavior, sexual harassment, a lot of this stuff that people complain about each other about. That is just not covered by the ethics law. Another thing that's interesting that's not covered by the ethics law, and that stuff is generally covered by the employee handbook that we have. So it's covered that way for most folks who are affiliated with the town. The other thing that it doesn't cover, and this is important because it's come up, is we sometimes get complaints from people who say, this person violated that law, therefore they violated the ethics law. That's not covered. There is no catch-all provision in the ethics law that says if you violate state or local law or federal law over here, you're also violating the ethics law. So there is no general catch-all provision. The ethics law is really, in some ways, quite narrow. So it basically focuses on conflicts of interest, and it focuses on a couple of things. First, you have to be acting or not acting in your official capacity. What you do in your personal life, not covered by the ethics law. It covers a couple kinds of things. It covers if a person knows or has reason to know that what they're doing will provide them with a personal financial benefit or give them unwarranted privileges or exemptions for that person or for their family, their relative, their client, that sort of thing. So that's one thing. You can't give yourself or your friends or family or customers a personal financial benefit. There's then a broader couple of provisions which require refusal. And so you can't do anything that may benefit the people, as I mentioned, listed above, financially or otherwise, or that could give a reasonable appearance of a conflict of interest for impropriety. That's pretty broad, but generally speaking, what it means is you can't do something or be in a position that your loyalty to acting in the best interests of the town is reasonably questioned. Right? That's the idea. It's all about your duty of loyalty to the town. So you want to be free from conflicts or the appearance of conflicts that can interfere with your acting in the town's best interest. So that sounds a little daunting, and we'll get into how we actually apply it, because, you know, you could, if we applied it in a certain way, like we were deeply suspicious of human nature, then we'd say, well, everyone around here is a conflict. Well, that's not how we apply it. We assume good faith, but I'll get into that. So a little bit about how the ethics board does its work is there have been our letters out there about this, and thought I'd clarify it. First, we receive complaints from anyone in town or anyone who works for the town. So you can file a complaint with us and we will address it. It's got to be in writing. Second thing, we will also, for town employees, so that's all the officials or any volunteer, we will give you guidance. So you send us a letter, we'll give you guidance in writing. So anyone in the town can file a complaint, and any employee, volunteer or paid, can ask for guidance. As an ethics board, we're required by law to meet 6 times a year, but we go above and beyond the call of duty. We meet at least 10 regularly scheduled times, and then we meet more times as needed. Every single one of those meetings has a publicly heard section. So anyone can come, we always hold them on 4:30s on Mondays here. What do we do? Well, we review those disclosure forms, which can be a little tedious, but Iris makes sure we do it. And so thank you, Iris, for that. And if people, this is good news for the town board. People have been disclosing potential conflicts in these forms now. They're taking them more seriously. Not everyone files them, but they're taking them seriously. And so it's really good. When people flag a conflict, we will be back in touch with them to say, you do have a conflict, or you may have a conflict, or you don't have a conflict. So we get back to people when they file this. The other thing is we conduct investigations. And this, I think, is helpful for the town board to know how we go about doing that. The first thing we do, some of you are familiar with this, we conduct a preliminary confidential investigation to determine if a violation even possibly exists. Like, take everything the person who filed the complaint said as true. Does it even possibly violate the ethics law? In a lot of cases, it has nothing to do with the ethics law, so the answer is easy. If it possibly violates the ethics law, then we go about and determine if there's reasonable cause to determine if a violation exists. And this involves notifying the employee of the complaint so they can hear from us, giving the employee, the subject of the complaint, the opportunity to respond in writing, and they can even ask for a public hearing if they want. If at the end of all of that, we believe that there's reasonable cause to believe that a violation has occurred or is occurring, we then write to the town board, the town supervisor, and by the way, going forward, we'll be sending you all notices individually, and we'll let you know that, and we recommend action by the town board. The town ethics board has zero authority to enforce our findings. We're powerless. Town board has not given us this power, and that's just fine, but it's really up to you. The one thing we would note is that the town ethics law does require the town board to let us know within 30 days of us telling you about a matter where we think the violations occurred or a reasonable cause for this occurred, to get back to us and let us know what you're doing about it. You don't have to do anything. It's all up to you, entirely the board's discretion, but please let us know within 30 days what if any action you take. Just a couple things to also help clarify for the board and others. The goal of the ethics law is to provide clear guidance to people who work for the town about the boundaries of ethical and not ethical behavior under the law, to promote public confidence, and to address potential ethical violations before they arise. And I want to thank the request we recently got from a member of the town board, as you're considering appointment, to say, look, does this person have a conflict of interest? It's really great to find out about these things in advance so we can address them. We really appreciate that. I would note that our work is intended to be educational and corrective. It's not intended to be punitive. The fact that someone has been found to recently have violated ethics law doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean they acted in bad faith. Doesn't mean they acted badly or negligently. It just means they stepped over the line. And sometimes, like you heard the language, reasonable appearance of a conflict of interest. We've got precedent, we follow the law, we do our best to interpret it, but sometimes the line's a little fuzzy. So just because someone's found to trip over the line, it doesn't mean they should be punished or there's anything bad that's happened. We're just trying to help people stay within the lines. And then, as I mentioned, we begin our work always considering that people are acting in good faith. So, you know, it takes something more than like friendship or, you know, just your general customer in the store or something like that to be thought that you've got this personal interest that's gonna supersede, you know, the presumption of good faith. I'll give you a couple concrete examples on what's clearly a violation and what's clearly not a violation. So what's clearly a violation is, let's say someone on the town board was the only doctor in town. And you were with a general medical practice, and you were considering changing the zoning laws to allow another medical practice, or maybe changing laws to prohibit any other medical practices from being established. If you're the only town board member, you're the only person in town who's got a medical practice, you're gonna be voting on whether you get any competition. Well, you have a very strong, personal, private financial stake. If you're on the town board, she should recuse herself, right, from that discussion. On the other, if you've got a modest financial interest in something that's part of a much broader group of people, there's no prohibition from voting on something. So for example, when you're voting on tax changes, you're all hurt by it or you're all helped by it. That's okay, right? People who are part of a broader group who are affected along with a broad group of individuals and not in any specific personal way, there's no conflict of interest there. Because if we found there was a conflict of interest, the town government couldn't operate. So that's how we looked at it. It's got to be sort of something personal, something private, something that's a little more specific to you. So here are just 5 things that we'd ask the board to take into consideration. And again, it's up to you to how to do this. The first is, every year when we submit our annual report to you, we let you know, it's like Santa's list, who's been good, who's been bad, right? Like who's been naughty, who's been nice. We let you know who hasn't filled in their ethics, their annual disclosure form for us. And we let you know if they're a repeat offender. And so if you're considering appointing people to town boards, and you know, now we've been doing it for a couple of years, let's say it's coming up and it's like 3 years they haven't submitted an annual disclosure form, you may want to consider mentioning it to them before you reappoint them, or maybe not reappoint them, because that's one of their obligations, is to fill out the form. Second thing to consider, which you've already started to do, which is when you're appointing people to town boards and commissions and committees, do they have an inherent conflict of interest? And so, I mean, this has come up recently, and it's a real world kind of situation where, you know, you want people on these town boards to be able, or town committees, to be able to set aside their personal interests and act in the best interest of the town. So if I understand what sometimes you might want to put all the cats and dogs together to fight it out and get you their best recommendation, but it's better if they don't have some sort of affiliation that makes them think that they're acting on behalf of the organization. You really want them as much as possible to be free from those kind of organizational connections. So at least the town populace can have confidence that the people giving you advice are the people who are thinking about the town's best interest, not their own. Another area to think about for you all, and this goes well beyond our paper, but whether to adopt a code of conduct for town officials. General code. Now, I mentioned we've got this employee handbook that applies to everyone who works for the town, except for elected officials. And the ethics code applies to everyone, but its town officials actually don't have a code of conduct, which is interesting. Now, it could be that putting in place a code of conduct could be so contentious that it would be a bad idea, or it could be a way of working out. It's like, how should we deal with each other as town officials? I'll just give you an example. I was secretary of the board of a company called AOL Time Warner, which destroyed more shareholder value than any other company in the history of the world, until General Electric beat us. And we brought together 2 boards. We brought together 8 people from AOL and 8 people from Time Warner on our board. And it was like the courthouse scene in Mad Max, right? It was, except our people probably showed up armed. So it was blues and grays, they didn't go on. But one thing we did that built a common culture is we came up with a code of conduct and governance guidelines for the town, in that case, the corporate board, and it actually improved the harmony. So something to think about is whether you want to put contact for officials. Another question is, how you'd like to get back to us, as I mentioned, within 30 days, if we send you a complaint. Hopefully we'll get back to us within 30 days as to what you're doing, but that really is up to you as to how you want to do that. So to put in place processes that will enable you to get back to us in those 30 days. And then the final question for the town board is how you'd like to train employees on the ethics law. So you could use, the folks who normally do training for the town could use some version of this deck that I've shared with you, or not, or you could ask some of us from the ethics board, there are 4 of us, to come in and do some training for folks. But we get a fair number of complaints each year, and so we're very open and willing to help you have the town employees training.
Would you be available and willing to go to
Yeah.
the various town
Yeah,
boards of the?
yeah, we could also go, and I'll do it, I think I've got a couple, see Neil nodding.
Or I mean, if everybody took a chance.
Yeah,
You went to plan and you went to.
we could do that.
Well, look, because everybody gets annual training anyway, because Linus provides annual
Yeah.
training. Maybe it could be an extra 15 minutes.
It could be there too.
Yeah, together anyway.
For the employees.
For the paid employees, sure, and we're happy to do it for both paid employees and for the,
Employees need to attend those sessions.
Yeah.
It's an annual training.
Yes.
And a reminder of ethics, Michael, it might be a good spoken with that.
sure,
While everybody's gathered, they're sitting for training anyway.
Yeah.
Some kind of to the,
Yeah.
to the training. So the comment that I
yeah,
have
sure,
about, I like the idea of the code of conduct for town officials, although it wouldn't have teeth, given the town officials are elected officers
exactly,
and they're here. With town employees,
yeah,
you can give feedback and evaluation and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, we get evaluations
Right.
every 2 or 4 years.
right, no, that's exactly right, and that's one reason why you may not have one, and it's up to you as to whatever team you want to put in place.
And I
I think legally, we're not, we don't have the ability to do much.
You can't, right, you couldn't toss someone off, right?
There's no.
Yeah, Right,
However, we could take the employee practice book and say, while.
Right.
We can't take actions, town board members.
are expected to adhere to these.
That's-
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly.
That's-
That's the easy thing, right, and then you could then, in a kind of double way, say, wait, I don't think we're living up to, or we are living up to these standards, but yeah,
That's an easy.
that's an easy, yeah.
Yeah, and I had sent an email actually a while back,
Yeah.
I think it was an email recently, I didn't know if you had a chance to get back, but maybe we could, if you're not running out the door, I think the rest of the is split, but we could chit chat.
Oh, I actually did respond today,
Oh,
yes, so, and this, just so everyone knows, it's about someone who's potentially being appointed, and you came to us with exactly the right request, like, is there a conflict, and if the person takes a certain action, no, so yeah,
okay, so we will,
yeah.
if you just want to.
But that's exactly how we like to operate,
Ahead.
which is you gave us a chance ahead of time, so it's not the person's appointed to the board and all of a sudden the commission, and all of a sudden. Someone in town complains and all of a sudden, so the little bit, the pre-clearance is really good. So any questions about that? I just, with a huge thanks for setting aside time for this.
Oh, yes, it's.
Okay,
I would just ask, as a committee, take a look at, what language would be best to add to the front of the employee minute.
okay, sure,
Just
Sure.
to say, yeah,
okay,
And I just want to say, I know I wrote a letter to the editor, and part of one paragraph is about how much I appreciate the common ethics board, because you are right in there and you are looking to make sure, like you said, if, people are always trying to do the right thing,
Yeah.
but are they doing it the right way?
Good.
And just being a communication point, but we are very lucky we have an ethics board, and we did you all in particular on that sport, so I
Thank
think we do this.
thank you.
And of course, yeah, she come to the public.
Oh, great, please do, we'd love to have you. Okay, I will tell you our next regularly scheduled meeting, well, we may actually, we're gonna have one in July 22nd, so yeah, we're having the next meeting. Okay, so, all right, well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks.
Thank you, Paul. We're gonna hop over to some resolutions. Be resolved to accept minutes for meetings held on May 21st and May 22nd, 2024, and June 11th, 2024.
Thank you.
All in favor?
I,
Resolved to authorize payments of ordered vouchers in the amount of $562,556.63.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Abstain.
Yeah, because it's.
Be it resolved to hire Steve Jackson as a part-time police officer effective June 18th, 2024, at an hourly rate of $29.13.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the town water sewer department. No, it's a little typo. Whereas the town water sewer department requested proposals to replace the failed boiler at the treatment plant. Whereas the town received 2 bids, one for an oil-fired boiler, one for heat pumps. And whereas the town is committed to moving away from fossil fuel heat systems into more energy efficient heat pumps, and whereas the heat pumps will also replace the aging AC system, therefore be it resolved that the Woodstock Town Board or the resident supervisor to sign a contract with Whiteboard Heating and Cooling to install heat pumps in the Woodstock sewer treatment plant.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Public be heard. That's a terrific resolution. Thank you, Ken.
Rebecca Turner.
Rebecca.
Yeah, it's kind of I decided to come in kind of officially make a request of the town board. For lots of us who live in the community, the conversation is coming up more and more on PFOA and PFOS and town well. And the new national standards, which I think are 4 parts per trillion, one of our wells at 3.4. So most people don't know exactly what's going on. I think we have a right to be concerned. This is not about trying to blame the town and the town board. What we need is an open meeting with open dialogue. All my neighbors, we live very close to the town wells. This is really on our minds. I mean, I was interested to know I have peripheral artery disease. I'm dying because cholesterol is building in my body. And I didn't even know that PFOAs, they now think that that's increasing cholesterol in somebody's arteries. You don't want to have the operation that I had on my leg. So I have questions. I need answered so that I can decide what's the best plan for myself, whether I need to put filters on, whether they work, what the town is planning on doing. Has the town looked at and decided if it's only in one well, why it's in one well? And I know it's been a long time, so you'll have to excuse me. I don't really remember, but the early 90s, we did it. I think Bernier and Larios did the testing of our wells, and they brought dye tablets in. Yeah, it was probably about 91 or 92. So they were tracing the water of how the water got into our wells, the town wells. And we were actually at that time, the town board, I was a member of it, was very surprised to find out how much came from the actual creek and ended up in our town wells. We were actually surprised because a lot of it has to do with the bedrock and stuff that's too lengthy for me to explain in 3 minutes about the way water goes in underground and ends up in certain areas. Is the town looking at some of those? Have they done updated reports? Has the town rechecked that well again? Is there a plan for putting probable more filters on? There are a lot of people concerned, including now we know that the nursery school is now going to use bottled water, and potentially Woodstock Elementary School seems to be going the same way. To err on the side of the caution. Once again, not to blame the town, but there is a problem if we as a community have to go and futz around on the website for the town and look down on the left-hand column and see if we can pick out this and if we can move back and forth. And you know what? So I don't speak for everybody else, I'll speak for me. That's way too difficult. I need in phase person to person because we have those questions asked. We have faced issues with polluted water in this community before. Long ago, we had people dying of cancer because of chemicals that were legally placed in the ground in the 1970s. At one point, before the laws changed and the EPA put in big teeth, companies have been dumping things for years in lots of places. We need to understand why that one well and what we can do to mitigate it. Because the answer of, well, it doesn't hit the four parts per trillion. That's not a good enough answer personally for me, because there were lots of chemicals over the years that we actually thought were okay to begin with. And then people started dying all over the country of brain cancer and of lung cancer. I mean, you know, I think that it's very valid that we look at those and that you actually have one town board meeting, maybe invite your environmental commission or whatever.
Thank you, but we don't normally respond to public be heard, but if you wait till the end of public be heard, I'll address that issue. And the rule has an announcement too, so. Thank you.
Okay, that's what I want.
Melissa Gibson.
I'm the one.
Melissa,
Hi, my name is Melissa Gibson, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself to the members of the town board. I am currently the owner of Hemp and Humanity on Tinker Street, operating there since 2020. For the past 4 years, I've been serving the community as a licensed New York State hemp cannabinoid retailer. I'm a nationally recognized expert in the hemp industry, and since founding my company in 2016, I've been dedicated to educating the public about cannabis, destigmatizing the plant, and curating the highest quality hemp goods available, with a particular focus on New York State and women-owned brands. I've worked with thousands of people to help them find the right products and formulas and protocols to benefit from the plant, and take every opportunity to teach folks about how hemp can heal us, house us, clothe us, fuel us, and feed us. In 2022, I co-founded the Hudson Valley Cannabis Roll Call to identify and gather the local cannabis industry for the purposes of growing and promoting an inclusive, productive, and powerful community that benefits the Hudson Valley. On June 11th, my entity, Plant Meets Public LLC, was approved by New York State Office of Cannabis Management for an adult use retail dispensary here in Woodstock. We couldn't be more thrilled to expand the scope of our service to the community and to bring much needed tax revenue directly to Woodstock. As you know, our license was brought up in the town meeting last week. I'm here so you could put a face to the name and to invite any of the board members to reach out to me with any questions they have as the town gets ready to welcome its first dispensary. Prior to the town meeting on the 11th, we had reached out to Supervisor McKenna to set up a meeting to introduce ourselves. In fact, it was our first order of business only hours after we were approved for a license on the 11th. At the town meeting that night and in the paper the next day, we heard about some concerns the supervisor had with regard to our dispensary. And while our submitted location is compliant with all regulations, and the state has given us permission to operate there, it was important that we took the time to understand where the supervisor was coming from and what his concerns were. So we followed through with our meeting on the 13th. My partner and I met with Mr. McKenna, and the meeting went well. We agreed to work together to explore solutions that would meet the needs of the community. And ultimately, we need permission from the Office of Cannabis Management for any accommodations, but we are willing to pursue that route in good faith and keep him posted. We're looking forward to contributing to Woodstock's local economy, serving residents and tourists with a dispensary that will honor the spirit of the town, lift up local businesses and artists, and at the very least, generate appetites for local munchies.
thank you. And I would just add that we agreed that the town would assist in trying to persuade OCM to make that yes.
It's more of a powerful thing to do together.
Yeah, thank you. Melissa.
Lori Belber.
Lori,
In March, I came to this board regarding the lack of resiliency planning. Part of resiliency planning is identifying locations of cooling centers during extreme heat wave. Equally important is to have a reverse 911 system in place to let people know where cooling centers are. It is now June, not yet August, and we are now currently experiencing a severe heat wave. Has Woodstock set up any cooling stations? Not that I know of. Here, then we should have that notified with a 911 reverse system to let everybody know to come, because I don't know this. It is hot now, it's in June, well in August, will we set up a cooling station if we have extreme weather again? Do we have a reverse 911 so we can let everybody in our community know this is available? I think it's very important to let the communication out, or a big sign outside, you know, one of those electric signs for the police station, to let us know there's a cooling station available for people to come here. So that's what is very important for at least trying to get us through to September, being that it's already 95 degrees here in June.
Thank you.
Abby Mitchell.
Abby.
Yes.
I'm here about the PFOS problem and the dirty earth that has never been removed from the Kerala site and it's shady. This will get in our water. This problem is not going away. And it must be removed. I do not drink tap water in Woodstock anymore. And I don't give it to my cats. I think it might have been the reason one of my cats got cancer and it cost me $6,200 to fix that episode. So the longer we ignore this problem and the people here are drinking this water and the children are drinking this water, the worse it's going to be. And regarding the heat pumps, since the town does not want to use fossil fuels, I assume that the town will be having a solar park to provide the power for this. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Chris Bailey.
Yes, I'm here to also talk about the PFOS in the town water. I think the fact of the matter is that the town is doing a little something about it. They are doing subsequent testing of the well to get a more accurate picture of what is in the water. However, it's what we do between now and getting the results that really counts. The elementary school has led the charge, and I applaud them for going to bottled water. They're not taking any chances. And we, as citizens of this town, should not be taking any chances. And that should have been communicated to us by the town board. There should have been a warning and there should have been an advisory as to what to do. I also don't drink water or coffee in the town anymore. So the merchants are suffering because of this, if they don't have the right filtration system in place. And I just think that there should have been better communication. And it's not just for the PFOS. There are many other issues where there is a lack of communication from the town board. I would like to see more communication. I would like to see town halls, just as you suggested. For God's sake, don't leave us in the dark.
Michael B.
Step up to the board.
Thank you for conducting a very informative meeting. I think every issue brought up, publicly heard, is a valuable one. And it's directed at you folks. And you have a responsibility. Yes.
The only problem is when you do that, we can't hear you.
Well, I'm not going to yell at them. Should I yell at them? I don't know.
No, but I can hear you now.
Okay, well, they like me to address them. I've been ordered in the past, so I'm going to address the board.
Why don't you stand over
I'll
there?
stand over to the side and stand away like that. Yeah, I don't want to do the table. I'm here to bring good news to the town board. I know you love good news, Bill, and I've been looking very closely at this thing you pushed through at the last meeting, the New York State Pro Housing Communities Program. And I'm here with the good news for the town board tonight that the library does not need a pledge from the town to access the Empire State grant money that they want to access for the library. That was a mistake. I'm really sorry that you told us last week that not only did we need this for the library, but that we also needed it or we were going to be shut off from state grant money. That also is not true. You have an opportunity now to, rescind the pledge, go back to the drawing table and bring in the committees and commissions for advice and a consultation and their input on whether or not adopting the New York State Pro Housing Communities Program is going to be a benefit to the town of Woodstock. I personally don't think it will be. I think loosening the permitting process, opening up the town to development is exactly the opposite what a vast majority of people in this town want. And for it to be serviced with 3 votes of elected officials, I'm glad to hear from the ethics board tonight. 3 elected officials are going to dictate what this whole town can do. I don't think that's right. Reach out to the planning board, reach out to the zoning board. The zoning revision committee should be involved in this process. The Commission on Civic Design should be asked for their opinion. You got plenty of time. The deadline is the end of July. Rescind the pledge, open it back up to the public participation process and full transparency.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. That's it. So just to address, the water testing, there was water testing done back in November. The test came back in December with a slight elevation. And that was still well below the state guidelines. When the town reached out to the health departments, they said, well, just do a couple more tests and let's see if we have a trend or a bump in the road. That is what we have done. And we will continue to do that as long as we need to, regardless of how this test comes back. If this test comes back where the one well field that had a high number, then what we're going to do, we won't worry about the other one for now. We'll just continue that on a yearly basis. But we will then separate the 2 wells within that well field and test each one of them and see if we can isolate where it's coming from, whether it's the entire well field or a single well. And then we'll go from there. Neil Larios has been engaged in this process and is looking at different scenarios of how we might treat the water. So that's where we are for now. We expect, I'm hoping that this week, there's no set guideline for when the tests come back, but they usually run 5 to 6 weeks is what over the last 4 years is about how long it takes. So we expect to have that back sometime this week or next. As soon as it comes back, we'll get on there. Also, I'll turn to Nula because she's been working on.
On July 24th, we're gonna have a town hall, 6 p.m. and the subject is going to be water. So we'll talk about water, we'll talk about how water gets into Woodstock, how it leaves Woodstock. We're gonna talk about what are PFAS exactly, how could that, whether it's this time or this is a conversation that we're gonna be having from now on, right? Water is very important. So how could that get into the water system here? The Department of Health will be involved in the discussion. And there'll be an opportunity at the end for folks to ask those questions and to get answers. We'll talk about the testing that we do on a monthly basis and then some of the additional testing. So it's going to be a very, I hope, enriching, educational, participatory meeting for all of us to get together as a community to discuss something that's really important. And we'll establish a baseline so that from there we can all have that conversation about water from here on out.
But in the meantime, you're not going to issue an advisory about drinking the water.
Health department says we not to. I mean, what we've told people, anybody's asked me, I said, you're gonna have to make your own decision, talk to your physician. That's their guidance. That we're below the limits.
So I have 2 questions.
We've looked into it and that's what their comeback is.
No,
So everyone should make their own decisions.
I have 2, 3 questions for Norm. So I know you said it's going to be a town hall, where will it be located?
It's gonna be at the community center at 6 P M.
Okay, community
And
center,
will it be recorded for those who cannot attend?
Yes.
yeah, and
There's not gonna be a Zoom for this.
but can you, I'm out of town also, I mean, I hate to miss it, I'm out of town.
Yeah.
So I hate to miss it, and I certainly would like to.
So
hear
I'll
what
listen
you
through
said.
those details.
Yeah, okay, I mean, there are people who can record, we have.
It's not gonna be on Zoom live, but it'll be recorded and then.
So it'll end up on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, and then my other question, you say Department of Health, you're talking about county or state?
county department of health will be there, so they'll be addressing certain parts of the information.
Yeah, okay.
As well as the medical doctor.
How is this town hall gonna be advertised?
I'm gonna put something out on Facebook.
And the town website, I'm sure we'll have it also.
I would say that the press is here, so I'm hoping that they get it out there as well.
Excellent.
And I hope you spread the
Let's
word,
spread
Chris.
the word. I mean, you're hearing this right now, so please spread the word.
Well, you can give it to it's the Hudson Valley One, right, who is our official,
Well, is
so you'll let Hudson Valley One know.
They'll find out.
With that, move to adjourn.
Say, I just also asked, do you think the community center is gonna be large enough?
It's gonna have.
We don't
to
have
be
a
large
bigger
enough.
building.
And if it goes well, we're gonna make it into a series.
Okay.
Bill
Yes.
Sarah wanted to speak.
I'm sweating, wet hair like running down the sidewalk, so no thanks on
So what's your
the
question?
cameras. Well, first I want to point out that Michael Beach is the only person you can hear on Zoom while I'm on, really.
Okay.
But Michael is the only person that you could hear on Zoom. So because I just attended from Zoom, like trying to get here, so just taking my job and reaching ethics, which I couldn't hear. But that was a big portion of what I wanted to attend tonight.
Next month,
So-
we should be in the town, be
Yes.
back up in the town offices, so.
Zoom is.
That
So
sounds
Zoom will be
great.
much better.
Yeah, 'cause last time we sat here, we had shared discussion about how, what was offered to you pro bono, and this is,
Thank you.
again, I'm going to unfire myself. I'm
Thank
going
you,
to have
thank you.
that 15 minutes.
Second,
No,
But no,
I'm not done.
public be heard was over.
We were just.
I asked Melanie and I am not done.
Okay.
Not
And that
personal
would
attacks,
be-
though,
I
Sarah,
asked
stop.
Melanie, I didn't get.
Sarah,
Melanie's
what-
not in charge.
What else do you have?
What else do I have is I find it concerning on our website that we don't have, like, I'm taking from this audience, that we are, what we are focused on, we should be focused on our citizens. Yeah, I've had these same conversations, this echoes a lot of what I'm very communicative with our office, as you know. Which is why don't we talk right now? So I'll keep it level. While we continue our conversation, Laura, and I wait for like a straight answer. Instead of meeting minutes coming at me right before a meeting where I can't respond, because I have another like, a full like. Super
I gave you
Bowl.
everything I had. I gave you everything.
Right, all right, so, but when we're not worried about the citizens and we're so focused on housing. Getting crammed down our throats, so we can have a one-way discussion, just lock everybody out and jab, affordable housing without. Really looking at the real issues and what that means. When Woodstock Elementary is going to close, right? And that could be zoned partial residential, and that's maybe where some of this generating, if you look at the timeline, we're not focused on. Fooling our citizens, et cetera. I mean, we should really. Look at the people, stop worrying about what's hanging from telephone poles, and say it again. Work better together, speak better with me, and I'll speak better with you, and please don't call me off. Like that, I have 3 minutes, just like everything else, I asked Melanie, she well.
All right, I run the meeting, so finish up. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Move to adjourn.
We should do-
What?
We didn't get to A yet, we should be now.
Ask me after. Who's?
I heard second.
All in favor?